excited to have you on, buddy. A fellow Wolfpack member out of Memphis, Tennessee, by the way of Seattle, as we mentioned on the intro. But Garth, how's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm really excited to be here, really excited to talk about the journey, and happy to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally and figuratively. We'll maybe go down that road. But talk to us a little bit about young Garth getting into the industry and absolutely taking it by storm, opening up your own brokerage, selling homes for athletes. Tell us, why real estate and what that looked like at the first hint of getting into this industry.
Oh gosh. Okay, the very very beginning was a thought process of wanting to sell luxury cars, and my dad, who'd adopted me at the time, was telling me that okay, we'll go talk to those people. So we started talking to Ferrari and Lamborghini dealership salespeople. He had me talk to them and ask them about their lives, and I realized that's not a life that I wanted. Then I said, okay, well, what if I sell, you know, military grade equipment, tanks, missiles, stuff like that? And he's like, well, you need to have some pretty strong political connections. You've got to have all these licenses and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's against the law. I said, okay, fine. And then, of course, this is when I was 12 anyways. And this kind of aligned with the last year that I was going to go trick-or-treating. And I wanted to maximize my candy per steps. I'm just very competitive. And I ended up having this thought. And I said, well, what if I found the most expensive houses and I correlated that to the smallest lots, because they're going to be, the least amount of steps to the highest amount of quality of houses. So I could get the most candy in the least amount of steps. So I pulled up the public GIS system. I didn't know that's what it was called, but I said tax record, property, homes, whatever. It pulled up. And then I ended up creating a ranking value system when I was young. And I took all of the city and I ranked all of it. And then I just started having fun because I'm a bit of a nerd. And I started ranking all of the properties based on their values and if they sold at the same quarter as another property. And then I realized I could create an entire like ESPN style power ranking system of every property that existed. And then based on just literal desirability, figure out which is more expensive and which should be least expensive. And anyway, I got a lot of candy that year. But that was my first thought, like, maybe real estate is something that I could do. So I started thinking about that. And then about a few months into thinking about it, I said, yep, that's just what I'm going to do. Of course, I thought I was going to play professional soccer. Ended up turning that down instead. But I went straight into real estate as soon as I could at 19 years old, after taking a bus, riding a bike, working 5 minimum wage jobs to pay for our apartment, and saved up enough for 3 months of savings, quit all my jobs when I got my license, was able to buy a car and forced it to work. Closed my first deal about 45 days into the business, bought my first bed. Year and a half later, I owned a house. So when I was about 20, bought my first place then, moved my parents in with me there. Then I retired them and said the next year, I was like, you're never going to work again. Then the year after that, I was the top producer at a regional firm. All I did was work harder than everybody else. I literally slept in the office. I'm not even joking. The manager would come and he had to send me aside and say, hey, if you're going to be here like 4 or 5 a.m., can you like have a light on or something, please? Because you scared one of the agents when they tried to walk in the office and you happen to be here. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I'm not even joking. Like, that actually happened. Shout out, Michael. But anyways, and what happened was I quickly became the top producer at that regional firm. They started asking me to join their corporate company, and I just didn't really want to go the corporate route. And so I sat back and I said, okay, well, what do I want to do and how do I want to do it? I know at the age of 21, I shouldn't be the top of anything anywhere. So I need to do something. I ended up getting headhunted to a luxury firm that was just being created. And 6 of the top 10 agents in all of Washington state were coming together to create a new brokerage. And they called me randomly. But hey, we're starting this new brokerage. It doesn't even exist yet. Would you like to be the first agent that we hire? I said, yeah. Of course, they were all older, but they were all selling ridiculous amount. I'm talking everything expensive. That's them. Right. And I was like, I've never been exposed to that world. I grew up with nothing. And so I was like, okay, you got to show me how to, sell nice houses. Like, I don't know what I'm doing for that. I was just selling a lot of regular houses. And they said, okay. So I helped them grow their company a little bit. They helped me grow my business. They helped me understand luxury and the differences in quality and what the expectation level is of the services of those level of clientele. And yeah, that's what it happened. I ended up making that shift to them. A year or so later, got in heavily into new construction, into land and development and things like that. And that I did that specifically because I learned the story of Terry, and she told me exactly how she became the #1 producing agent in Washington State for over a decade. And she told me a very simple truth. I started with new construction. I sold the new construction neighborhoods that happened to be upper middle class. And then I kept just doing that over and over again for a while. And all of those people ended up stepping up into higher, more expensive homes over time. That was it. That was her, the entire thing. Plus, she was like the first person to add in photos into the MLSs. But that's, of course, we don't have that luxury anymore because that's already happening. But so I said, I'm going to implement that. So I got into new construction. I built a massive portfolio. And I realized that at that point, I was going to have to somehow expand. I was always looking to expand. And I ended up getting, at one point I had 70 or something new construction listings at a time. They were all like $800 something thousand or so. And I started having agents come to me and ask to work with me and to join my team. And that was never really a thought of mine. I never really wanted to grow a team or anything. But I kept having people do that. And I was like, okay. And then I ended up, building a small team. That wasn't on purpose, but I did. And then what happened is I ended up, getting a really expensive sale. It was still to this day my most expensive sale. It was $21.7 million. It was builder to builder, 138 unit deal. And when I got that money in, I sat back and I thought, okay, I have more agents asking me to join them, to join me. And at the same time that, I was in conversations to potentially franchise that company that I was at. They went quiet. And then I had people wanting to join my team, and I was like, okay. But then I closed this deal. It was the most expensive deal in the county's history. Nobody even mentioned it. And I was like, okay, something's off. I don't know what's going on, but something's off. And then we get an email that says, hey, we're asking for potential errors and omissions claims. And I was like, this sounds like they're getting valuation metrics to sell. And so I sat back and I said, what do I want to do? How do I want to handle it? Now, fortunately, I had just got my managing broker's license because I just felt like getting it. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own company because all these agents are wanting to come to work with me anyways. Let's cut out the middleman of the company. They don't really care about the company that I'm at. I already understand the process. I understand the systems. I understand how to grow a business. I've helped other agents grow a business now. I'll just start my own thing. So then I did back in 2018 and August 1st. I got my first office and I planted it with like an 80 square foot office that was behind it was like a walk up that you had to pass some like dumpsters in the back alley of a place in Puyallup. And it didn't even have a window because I wanted to run everything super tight ship, super cash, super like chill. But then we grew too fast. Initially, not a lot of people wanted to work with me because you can imagine I was 23 years old and owning a brokerage. Only people that wanted to work with me were either young, new, or failing. That was it. That's the only agents that wanted to join me. Established agents, middle-aged agents, older agents, nobody wanted to join me. And that's fine because 6 to 8 months later, we started getting a lot of those agents because all of the agents that came to work with me started radically producing. Agents that had been in the business for 2 years, never sold a deal, came to work with me and then made over $400,000 the next year or over $600,000 the next year. Same story. Over and over and over again. Anybody that was handheld by me ended up doing radically well. And so we ended up growing fairly quickly, opening a large office space. And then that continued expanding and expanding. We started looking at, how do we start placing more locations and more locations? And then we planted, we ultimately landed with 4 locations at the end, with 2 of them being licensed out. And it was a whirlwind. It's definitely not something I would suggest that most people do. But that's because I didn't know what I didn't know. I just knew I was trying to expand and I thought that was the next logical play. But of course, then, like you mentioned, I ended up becoming a top, I think I was the 7th most productive agent for one of the years there in Washington State. And then, I've had celebrity clients. I've done things like that. And honestly, there's a lot more hype around that than there is fun. You're not really dealing with the person, you're dealing with their asset
Agent.
manager, their wealth manager, their agent representatives. It's not exactly what you would be led to believe based on TV. And the other thing is with some of those clients, part of the reason that they chose to work with me was because I wouldn't say who they are, and I still haven't, and I won't. And I've never said what those addresses are, and I still haven't, and I won't. And I think that's a really important part when you get into that side of the field, because that anonymity goes a very long way. And for them to be able to trust your word that you're going to uphold that matters, honestly, probably more than your competence in the field. And because of that, and just like everything in this business, we should always be able to honor what we say that we're going to do and actually over deliver on that. And so that's kind of always what I've had in the forefront. And so that's what I did. Anyway, long story short, I ended up coming in, and now we're partnered together in a way. I ended up coming to work with the Wolfpack Way too. And when I did, and I'm just diatribing now because I'm going through the whole story. But when I did that, I closed down all my office doors. I actually just paid the last month of my commercial lease 2 months ago. I shut down all those doors. Everything went virtual. And, I sat back and I was talking to Kayla, and we were saying, okay, before we made this move, we were getting offers to sell the company. We turned those offers down. I don't like the way that they're structured. And ultimately, a couple $1 million is not like the greatest thing in the grand scheme of things. Especially when you have to sign NDAs, and then you have to be connected to the company for a few years and all these other stipulations connected to it. It's not as good as you'd think.
That's not working for yourself.
No, it isn't. I wouldn't work for myself at all. I'd be working for somebody else for 3 years basically. And then there's no upside and then it's like, hopefully everybody stays, and it's not good. If anybody ever wants to know, let me know. I'm happy to talk about what that actually looks like. But so anyway, we were getting offers to sell. We turned those down. We were looking at ways to expand, and we were looking at different places our next offices would go. And we were trying to find spots in the country that were underserviced and places that could really use a push from a marketing and advertising perspective, and where agents didn't do a great job with communication speed, with any sort of auxiliary marketing, where even their photos weren't that great in general. And, Memphis was a place that popped up on all of the major metrics. It was a place that does have quality product. It has good investment return opportunities. And unfortunately, it came up on our metrics as the worst place where agents are. And so we ended up coming out here twice, looking at it and delving into it as a potential next location for an office. When we went virtual, we looked at it and said, well, we really liked it there. The people were nice. The weather was great. The properties are a third of the price. Maybe it makes sense to go over there and give it a shot. So, getting into the move and the transfer of everything, I moved over here, and my main focus was to focus on, the team, the development of other agents and things like that. And I did that for about a year. Also, we were still settling in and learning the area. And, it was never my intention to necessarily sell homes here, at least by any large metric. That wasn't necessarily the goal, because I do coaching and I have the team and everything else. And so that wasn't the initial thought. But what I kept coming across was agents were saying the market's hard, the interest rates are hard, product isn't moving, nobody's selling their house. It's all the market's fault. And when I would tell them what to do and how to do it and give them a roadmap, they would look me in the face and basically say, well, that's easy for you to say. You've sold over $1 billion worth of real estate. Of course it'll work for you. And I was like, it doesn't matter that I've been in it for this long. It doesn't matter that I've done this many sales. So I sat back for a minute and I said, well, wait a minute. I'm in a pretty unique situation. I'm in a market. Nobody knows me. I don't know the market. I don't know the neighborhoods. I don't have a sphere of influence. I don't have any friends. I'm effectively a new agent because nobody cares what I did over in the other state. So what if I went very public with this. I said, what if I started from scratch and rebuilt from nothing, and I showed you guys all exactly what I did and how I do it? Would you then listen and say that this is actually just a roadmap that works? And I had some people buy in. They were like, yeah, I'd listen. Okay, cool. And that was 14 months ago. From those 14 months, I think I've closed 57 transactions now in this market center. I think I have 5 on the market, 2 pending, and 6 more that have signed listing agreements.
Right.
And
So,
so yeah.
that's awesome. Let's unpack that a little bit and talk about kind of obviously what a story, right? Like going from here, all you really had was your word from day one. Like you were going to do it. You're going to sleep in the office if you had to, so to speak. And, just continually defying the odds, right? 23 years old, owning your own brokerage, still pretty young, moving across the country, completely leaving that model behind to, I mean, you had 4 offices, over 100 agents, I think, in those to transitioning EXP. So tell me, like, now we know why you did it and why you're like, okay, let's do this production thing again. But what was the first thing you did? Because so many agents are, they come to me, they ask me, like, well, yeah, you've sold this amount of homes. So what it is. But the truth is that there's no secret sauce. There's just hard work. And obviously you do that. So tell me the framework that you used to jump right back in. Was it some intricate thing that you found along the way, or was it,
Oh
back
man,
to
I'm gonna let a lot of people down today. It's the
yeah.
saddest thing in the world.
No, it's not. It's
I
it's the truth.
This is what's real, guys. And this is from nothing to what 57 or so, 14 months ground start.
In a terrible market.
In a bad market
Right.
where nobody knows me. I don't even have
Right.
friends, right? Like
Right.
it's dead. Like,
Right.
and so here's what I did. I sat down and this is the first thing, and I know maybe it doesn't make much sense. I sat down for an entire day, took 10 or 12 hours, somewhere in there, and I understood the market. I researched it. I understood it. I knew where the prices were. I knew what the price points were. I knew what the different cities were. I understood the demographics in the different cities and everything. I wanted to understand. I spent one full day doing it intentionally. And then I stopped and I haven't done it again because it doesn't matter. I had to understand it and then I moved on to action. So
Right.
one, I researched to understand. After that, I moved on. These days, you guys can just use AI, right? I didn't even think about that, and it probably would have been better if I did, but I did it the old school way, and I just researched it through the MLSs and stuff like that.
But you do have to read what the AI puts out.
You still got to read it. That's true. You do. And so I sat down and I researched. After that, day 2, I laid out the game plan of what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And this is the thing. I built that business in less than 25 hours a week. It was an intentional 25 hours. I did my open house plan, which is 8 open houses per day on a Saturday, per weekend, 4 on a Saturday, 4 on a Sunday. Boom. That's weekends covered. During the week, it was making sure to hit calls on canceled, expireds, and for sale by owners, to create one post every day on some sort of social media feed, and then to add in a little bit of farming in and around the places that I was cold/warm farming. And then I added one little piece of fairy dust on top of that, which is pay at close lead systems. And I made sure to optimize those systems to my market center, and I made sure to optimize my proposals to what would win. That's it. And then I did it, and I did it consistently. And to this day, all I do from a production standpoint is I put about 2 hours a day into it. About, I want to say 6 months of doing the open house strategy. And then I stopped doing that because I didn't need to anymore. And then I had enough of my own inventory to just do my own inventory. But most of my system and strategy is predicated on building a listing inventory and a listing business, because that's how you can have freedom. And that's what I did. And so out of all those deals, I think 2 of them were buyers.
Right. And so obviously people have always wanted listings, and now the market's changed a little bit, but you're still selling the houses, right?
Yeah.
Agents haven't sold, 71% of agents haven't sold houses in this year, last year, whatever the stat is. And you're going out and doing it, and you're doing the work, and it's nothing crazy. You didn't pay a ton of money for, Red X, maybe you did, calling, all that stuff, whatever, but it was your time that you invested, right? And so
Mhm.
optimizing your time is perfect. And one of the things, as one of your, partners within the Wolfpack that I notice is that your time is extremely valuable, right? I always think it's funny because you and I are on most of the Wolfpack calls, the stuff that our company, our group at EXP offers,
Mhm.
and all these other people say they're too busy to get on these calls. Well, I know between the two of us, we're selling more than most people that are on the calls anyways, right? So
Yeah.
that's that's where it's really interesting because it's about optimizing your time and organizing it and doing it right and having the background knowledge. So, I mean, and when we're talking Seattle and Memphis, they're not the same place. They're
Nope.
not the same market. You roll out of bed in Seattle, you can, list $1 million house.
Mhm.
So you're going after, a different metric. So talk to me about a little bit of the difference, something that I opened your eyes in a new market that you maybe weren't expecting when you dialed it in that day.
Yeah. I think one of the really interesting things that I had to understand was the way that people chose their agent was different,
Mhm.
based on the market, and also the the level of marketing wasn't that decrease in the level of marketing wasn't just by way of not knowing or understanding how to do it, but by way of people not wanting to invest into trying to sell the deal because the deals are inherently smaller. And
Mhm.
so what I committed to very early on is the fact that I wasn't going to undervalue what my marketing and advertising could be, regardless of those changes of price points. And I think that's what ultimately set me leaps and bounds ahead of the competition. Um, it's interesting because you have a real producer's cover photo on the back of your
Mhm.
ball back there, right? Um, I will be on the cover of Real Producers in Memphis one
Mhm.
year after joining this area. And that's mostly because every deal that I got, I pretended like they were $1 million deals.
Mhm.
And I think that is the biggest way to increase your repeat and referral businesses. Like when I look back and I say, wow, this year so far, we've had 8.5 months. I ended up
Mhm.
selling 4 properties for one guy.
Yeah.
I ended up selling 3 properties for one family and friends in the
Mhm.
same year. And so if you're an agent and you're getting a listing and you're not converting that listing into at least one more deal, it's a painful thing to hear, but you didn't do that great of a job. Like
Mhm.
th- that's just the reality because they know other people, they know they're connected, and people want people to like them. They don't refer us for the most part because they want to be nice to us. They want their friend or family member to get the best possible experience that they understand. They're like, I know if I hand this person to them, they're going to get a great experience similar to the one that I got. And so
Mhm.
that's why I also I gave myself no leeway to say, I'm going to do well here. Oh, this one's cheaper. I'm not going to do it as well. I'm not going to give it as much time. Because one property, for example, oh, this one's $200,000. Why would I care? And I'm still doing 3D tours, high quality brochures, all the best photos, all the things, and I sell it quickly. Great. But then that in turn becomes a double-ended off-market deal for $350,000. So,
Mhm.
like 2 months later,
Right.
based on a
Pretty good
referral.
investment.
So yeah, what was it a good investment, right? Like it's like, yes, I spent a few $1,000s more, but that's like how the business can grow in a very easy way. Plus, when we do the marketing right, it becomes a ever living resume of ourselves that
Right.
we don't have to necessarily always spend all the money on ads. I would rather spend the money on projecting people's properties, making them a better outcome in the long term, and being able to avoid the is it promotion or pricing conversation, especially in a market that's slower like this. I break it down to every single seller that I have, and I say it's the property, the pricing, and the promotion. If the property is what it is and the promotion is perfect, and we'll agree that it's perfect before I hit live, if that's all done variables, we know the only thing that's left over is price.
Right.
Today I got a pricing adjustment. It took me one text message.
Mhm.
I said, we need a pricing adjustment. We're not getting the metrics that we need. They said, what do you suggest? I told them what I suggest. They said,
And I said,
cool.
okay. Yeah. And
because
that's
I
right.
upfront had
Proven.
those conversations.
Mhm. And that's such a huge deal in this, conversation, is the expectations of the sellers and all of the things that are going on. And so taking that from just, to kind of go back to your, spend a couple grand on marketing to get an off market double ended deal. Well, I mean, ultimately that's 3 transaction sites. You didn't have to do the brochures for the off market deal.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I know, I say
ultimately you spent the same amount of money there on, you know, taking 3 sides, but that's where it's at. And you have to have that reality. And I think right now in all of our markets, like, it's slowing down, right?
Mhm.
There's less showings and there's less opportunities, and agents are holding on to showings, right? You know how I know agents are desperate when I'm showing properties to buyers? They ask me for feedback before my appointment even started in a text message, right? And so having that, this is how we do it. There's one way to do it, and this is how we do it, no matter what the price point, is a massive separator for people, because we're so bogged down on, this fee and that fee and MLS fee and realtor board fees. And then they're like, oh, I think I can sell it for, just throwing it in MLS. Well, you could do that for the last 5 years. But if you've noticed, the people that are continuing to sell houses in this market, they've continued to have that market. I can't tell you how many times I printed out flyers and was taking them to the house and got an offer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just
Oh,
what
yeah.
you did. Okay, great. Cost of doing business. Nice part is we can write that off. And we're ready to go. So that's awesome. So if you're talking to somebody who's maybe brand new to a market, or, making a move, tell me about just like 2 sentences on winning in any market. Like, that's something that you've done, and you've dominated in Seattle. Now you're dominating in Memphis. Shout out to the Real Producers being on the cover. That's awesome. They found the right guy. So what's a 2 sentence banger that you can give somebody for, to win in any market? Like, where's that mindset piece?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. It's a 3-part sentence. You come at winning in the market with the right mindset and game plan that it's going to happen. So the right mindset that it will happen. You have to anticipate that it will for the outcome to happen. Then number 2, you have to have a game plan and stick to it consistently, regardless of the immediate results, understanding that this business operates on an echo effect that happens 2 to 3 months later. And
Yep.
number 3, you have to develop your ability to properly communicate your value proposition and properly differentiate yourself from the pack of the rest of the agents in your market center, regardless of what that center is. That's
Yep.
it. You have to be able to
Absolutely.
say what you do and how you do it. You have to be able to differentiate it against other agents. And you have to be able to follow that path. And you have to do the activities that are prospecting related consistently, regardless of immediate result. That's it.
Right. And that's instant gratification is the number one killer, I think, to success, and probably the number one reason that people throw so much money away at these, fly by night things. And that's one thing you mentioned, is pay at closing, right? It's
Mhm.
very important to note that he wasn't throwing a bunch of money out on leads and getting anything unless it was part of his marketing package that he was marketing a listing for.
Mhm.
The pay at closing strategies are key, and every market's different. I've heard people crush it with Upnest. I've heard people crush it with Redfin's partner program,
Mhm.
in different markets. It just depends. I've heard people say they're complete trash where they're at, but try them
So
out
it
in
all
your market.
depends. And now I've helped agents do these specific things across over 30 something states now. And there is some differences per state, but I can say, when I help plug people into all of the different platforms, and that's what I advocate for. I advocate for plug into every single one that exists because it's free anyways. It just takes the upfront time and attention. Then from there, focus on the ones that are letting you win in their algorithm. That's it.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
you
One's
set
going
it
to work.
up and then it works
Right.
passive. Like, why
Right.
would agents not do that? And I talk to so many, hundreds of agents all the time, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not on any of those." I'm like, it takes you an
Yeah.
hour, and then they're prospecting for you. Yeah, you're going to pay if
Right.
you close something, but there's this cost of doing business if you put the money out up front too, and you might not close anything. And so,
Their
like you
algorithm
said,
might be a little stronger than ours, just starting out, just saying.
no, it is higher than if you were to, pay for the leads and curate them.
Yep.
But you would have to sift through the leads. You'd have to filter through the leads. Most online leads have a time horizon of 6 to 12 months. These ones are a little bit more close to fruition. So while trying to do things quickly, and if you have no budget, it's the best way to do it. Because throughout all of those transactions, I spent $0 on ads.
Yep. Absolutely. And so, those people are paying millions of billions of dollars to drive people to those sites, and we're dropping our, IDX searches and, getting 10, 100, 200 people a month maybe, and these people are driving those people in probably a minute. At times. So something to look there. So you touched on agents, training agents, coaching agents. Your transition to EXP was very much about this, right? As you grew your organization and you have these tactical, approaches, your trainings are amazing. Talk to me a little bit about your growth and how this model made more sense than, your broker owner model that you had originally.
Yeah. I mean, oh gosh, there's a few things there. So number one, it was my initial thought when I owned the brokerage, and even when we were getting the offers to sell it, it was I'm doing fine now. I'm making good money now. I don't need this. But when I sat back and I really had the conversations of what could be offered with this value stack, what could be done in proper alignment with other people that knew things better than I did. I'm not the best at everything. I would argue that I'm really good at a few key things that help me grow. And I'm not very good at a lot of other things. But because of that, I got to talking to a lot of the leadership here at the Wolfpack, and I said, well, they're doing trainings on this and this and this that I don't understand at all, or very little. And if an agent was to come to me while I owned my brokerage and ask me those questions, I would have to basically give them a subpar answer. I would have to give them either that or just say, I don't know. And that's not fair to them. And I was looking at what could be my longer term impact. And I know a lot of people said, when we closed down the company, oh, it must be because, he was going bankrupt, or it must be because, he just got tired of running the company, or they got sued or whatever. Like there was so many rumors, but I'll put all those rumors to bed. We were a cash flowing company. We made money every single month after we started the company and put the money in. And what happened is I was looking at the best way to shepherd the agents to the best vehicle and the best opportunity for the best training that existed. And I also wanted to have the most impact possible. I understand that my time horizon in the business is another 50 years, 50, 60 years in this business. And my goal is to have impact on thousands of agents. And to do that through a brick and mortar structure, that's a lot of capital to have to lead with. And the timeline would be very, very long. I looked at what that would look like and what it would look like if I did it through this path. And I said,
spreadsheets on Halloween candy.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah. I literally said, I want to, if I was to try to get to, for example, 1,000 or 2,000 agents through the brick and mortar structure, it would have taken me a few decades. It would have taken me about 20 years is what my math said, to get somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 agents. I would have gotten there. I have no question. I would have gotten somewhere around there in about 20 years. And then I still didn't see a light at the end of that tunnel, because I still had to deal with the compliance. I still had to deal with the lawsuits. I still had to deal with the legal. And that's with staff. A lot of people own companies and they don't even have a CEO. They don't have a managing broker. They don't have managing brokers in each location, and admin and staff and transactional support and all that. They're just trying to do it themselves. The ability to actually pivot out of production forever and long-term is part of my goal. I want to focus on helping other agents grow, because I authentically feel like I gain more from that, from like a feel good standpoint. And so that's where I want to put my focus. And to do that from the brick and mortar model, I would literally have to have built that. So I would be in it for another 20 years before I'd be able to really focus on what I wanted to do and the impact that I wanted to have. and we'd be geographically restricted. So if I was going to grow my brand online, and I was going to grow my presence online, and people were going to find me, I wouldn't have been able to partner with them. And now when I made the switch, it was very, very quick that, I mean, yes, a lot of my agents did not follow because we weren't a realtor operation and we were a boutique luxury thing. And it was very specific. But ever since I came, I've averaged 8 to 10 people joining me every single month. That was never the case when I owned a brokerage, but that's because I was doing everything alone. And I could only have people that were like relatively close to the office. And arguably, I grew very quickly. 4 years and 137. That was a very fast growth of a real estate brokerage. And honestly, it didn't feel fast enough. So when I came over here and I said, great, now we have the best social media training, the best online AI training, the great investment training, 50 hours of training by the top agents of the company, plus my training, plus my branding and support. I was like, it would be a disservice to my own agents not to do this because they're going to get all of that extra on top of what I do and get paid more money. Because I charged a higher split. I charged higher fees. I charged higher monthly fees, higher transactional fees, all of it. I was a substantially more, expensive place. So I was like, I can give my people basically a 50% discount and a better experience. And so I felt,
and a culture, right? The culture you probably didn't even know about that.
No, I didn't know it was going to be as good as it is. But I did understand that I operated a lot of physical locations that almost nobody ever frequented. And the people that came to our offices, and I did a study on this. I'm a big fan of doing studies. If you didn't notice, I'm a bit nerdy, but I did a study on this and I found out that on average, we would have 7 people at our office per month outside of office trainings. And the people that would come, and I tracked it over time, they were not the productive agents. The agents that would come, unless they had a closed door office, that's different. They would like come and get their work done in their office alone. If they were just coming to the office and they didn't have one of those closed door offices because they were like our highest producer, they were new and they would come to the office for the first couple months and then they would never show up again. Or they were a bubble agent that would close a couple deals every year and consistently be complaining that the market was bad, even though I would give them the exact things to do to grow, and then they just wouldn't implement them. But then we, fast forward, we move over here and work with the Wolfpack here, and the culture is drastically different. The people that are coming are the people that are winning. The people that are surrounded in the culture are the people that are winning. And we don't just try to win from a business perspective. We try to win at life. And that's also really interesting. It's a very unique thing that I've never seen in my entire career. 13 years, 4 offices in, never seen anything like it. And I don't think I ever will. And in fact, I think that's shown by the statistics. I don't even think that exists even at EXP. We can tell that it doesn't exist based on the numbers. That's why we're the fastest growing organization in the world right now. Because it's hard to recreate.
Right. And it's the global piece, right? When we have the global piece, we can pour into each other. It's not necessarily, there are people that get along in the same markets, but when you're in an office, and you have that really good culture, at the end of the day, there's always this underlying thing like, this is mine. Like, I have to have my territory. I have to protect my boundary. And, being non-geographically restricted and plugging a bunch of like-minded agents who, cross paths with Connor or Mike or ourselves, as we go, we're just cultivating leaders of the future. Right. And you and I kind of happen to be on that second tier of the leaders that Mike has poured into and helped to cultivate that and basically say, give it all away. Right. Like
it's true. It's so true. It was the craziest thing in the world where I've had it be where agents have come to me and said, hey, I want to farm a market that you farm. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And I sat back for a second. I said, this is business. If you think you can beat me, beat me.
Right. And it'll be
okay. Go do it. Like, and that's what I said. Like when this is when I owned the office, right? I was just like, look, you want to like, because this was like, I talk about this farm a lot because I gained 40% market share in a 7 or 8 month period of time. And everybody wanted that neighborhood. Everybody did. And then, but people at my office understood that I had all these listings, and they were like, I want to farm the Ridge. Is that okay? And I said, yeah.
You want to do my open houses?
I was like, you want to do it? Go for it. This is free business. I'm not going to tell you to not do it. But the thing is, that's interesting is they thought that they had to ask. And that's the difference. Here, it's irrelevant, right? I could talk to you, for example, about everything that I could go literally meticulous detail to meticulous detail, and it would not matter because I don't live in Aurora or whatever, you know.
Right.
I think
neither do I, but close. You're close. That is.
There's cities over there. I don't know. Like the Denver-ish market. I don't live over there. Like, it makes no difference, right? And I think it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that haven't been around it. Because what, they're going to go to the top producer at their office and the top producer is going to tell them every single thing that they do?
No, never.
No, they're not. And it sounds bad, and I'm not putting down those top producers, but does Coca-Cola tell Pepsi what their ingredients are? No, they just don't. And it's not against them. They shouldn't.
They just add more sugar.
they probably do. But like, the point is if they're going against Mountain Dew or whatever, some other random company, I don't think it would matter as much.
Right.
They're not direct competitors.
Yep, absolutely. And so as we kind of wrap this up, the family lifestyle of the Wolfpack carrying through to, you know, our lifestyles, our family revenue share, giving us, you know, that kind of freedom piece down the road as we build it. Tell me what it's like to coach or partner with Garth, because here's the underlying vibe here: hard work, consistent effort, you know, building a brand. Like, how's that? Because now we have the opportunity to partner necessarily with both of us, right? We're in different downlines within the Wolfpack, but partnering with Garth, obviously people that watch this show know what partnering with me looks like. What's bringing Garth into this look like for those agents?
Yeah. Oh man. There's a few things, and some of it is, you know, predicated based on the amount of engagement and help that the agent wants. But it starts with another community, an entire new community with entire breakdowns of my open house plan, an entire book of my open house plan, hours of content of exactly what to do, how to do it, what to say, how to introduce yourself, how to pivot, buyer presentations, seller presentations, exactly what to say on every single slide of each one of those, that have helped 19-year-olds that have never held a job in their entire life win multi-million-dollar listings against seasoned agents. It comes with branding help, branding support, the best people who have designed our brands, all the best vendors that do all of my marketing materials, and comes with calls every once in a while with me. It's like every 2 weeks. And then depending on how much handholding you're looking for, one of my partners said, he called me and he said, hey, I want help. I need to be able to wake up earlier. I need to be able to attack the day better. And I know that if I did it, everything would change. And I said, okay, are you sure? He said, yeah. I said, if you're asking for me, you're getting ruthless accountability. He said, sounds good. Next morning, I sent him a video message at 5 a.m. as I was completing a half marathon. And I was like, are you up yet? And I kept messaging him until he replied. And so, like, that's the level of accountability that determines whether you win or not, right? If somebody says and lays out a plan that is basically foolproof and then you don't fulfill it, maybe this is a harsh thing. You're going to get harsh, brutal truth with me. I'm going to say, if you don't fulfill the things that you know easily, one, can control. So if it's a controllable and it's doable, it's a doable task, and you do not complete it, you don't deserve to be held accountable, and you don't deserve to win in this business. Maybe it's a harsh truth, but I think that's the truth. And anybody that looks at themselves and said it's the market, it's this, it's that, it's some external force, they need to be told and reminded that it isn't, and it's all their fault. And taking that ownership is what changes your ability to grow.
Yeah, that's funny, because that's one of my major coaching points, because I coach a lot more like in transaction stuff, right? And I just tell my agents, I don't care if, you know, there was a tornado and the roof ripped off. If you're talking to your client and you just say, it's my fault, this is what I'm doing to fix it, it completely changes the entire narrative, right? And so taking accountability into those transactions, into these harder markets, right, is absolutely key, especially when sellers or buyers are frustrated. Right. We've all had the person be like, are you actually representing me or just trying to get this deal done? Right. People have said that. They say
I've had
that.
the worst, man. I've got
Right.
a terrible story for you.
Right.
Oh man, I could go on forever, so I won't
For
bore
a
you with
different time.
details.
But yeah, go ahead. Go with it.
Okay, I'll give you a short version. A guy calls me up, wants me to sell his place. I say, okay. I show up to his house. He doesn't come up to the doorbell after we're there. He's clearly there. He doesn't hear it. He comes to the door. I'm like, okay, sounds good. We walk through the house. We have a conversation. He's losing it a little bit. I can tell. I'm going to go a little quickly. So he's losing it a little bit, and I can tell, and that's okay. He says, sounds good. We want to sell. I want to sell it. That's great. His daughter was there to like make sure everything was going fine because he was getting older. I said, sounds good. I'll send you over the paperwork. Cool. He said, that sounds great. I said, okay, send it over. He can't see it. I'm like, what do you mean? It was like, I can't find my email. I said, okay, that's fine. And then I go to the house. I help him get into his phone, find his email. I'm like, you want to sign this? Do you want to? He's like, yes. I was like, this is how you do it. And I walk him through how to do it on his phone. And he's like, I didn't even know. But when I went there, I had to wait 30 minutes for him to come to the door because he didn't know that I was coming because he didn't get any of my text messages. So I had to walk him through how to actually turn on notifications on his phone and to save me into his contacts on his phone because he hadn't done that. So I helped him do all of these things. Boom, he signs the deal. Cool. I'm going there to do the marketing. We do the marketing. I put it on the market. Then he ends up going to a mental institution.
Perfect.
So he can't sign anything anymore.
Right.
His daughter is at this point facilitating. And she doesn't have a power of attorney, but I'm working with her to develop a relationship with an attorney so she can create power of attorney, etc. Deal with like whether he can pass muster for competence, all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this is a $220,000 deal.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyway, we end up getting an offer. They walk away because we can't respond in time. I get another offer. Like I'm going to this mental institution with her to help her have the conversations with the people because they're not even treating him like the right or whatever. Yeah. And I'm helping facilitate that. Nothing transactionally. It's just to help.
Just
right?
Life. Right.
I'm helping with life because she doesn't understand whatever. Cool. I'm helping. Right. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she ends up getting it. We end up going under contract. Then we're like, okay, cool. This is going well. And then we find out with title, hey, there's a problem. This property's never been sold. It was built by his dad who died. And then, but he had two sons and the other son died. So they just assumed it was his, but the other son had died with sons. So now there's these sons of the son who have ownership interest in this property that don't know that it exists. And none of it's been conveyed to anybody. And I'm just calling her and letting her understand it because the attorneys are trying to explain it and she doesn't understand it. And she's like, what do you mean? You're telling me that it's not his house? I'm like, well, I'm telling you that it's only partially owned by him and they own some of it. Like it became a whole thing. And anyway, long story short, she stops wanting to talk to me. She has a representative call me who acts like an attorney who isn't an attorney, some random friend lady who wanted to talk to me about things. I talk to her. She's really antagonistic. It's a whole thing back and forth. Then, long story short, we're still going through this contract. Then he passes away.
Now it's
mandatory 60-day waiting period before we can transact and close the property anyways. So now, and we have to get death certificates and everything else. And she doesn't want to deal with the signatories because they're estranged with that aspect of the family and the whole thing. So that she's yelling at me. The other person's yelling at me like it's all my fault.
Yeah.
So
what'd you say?
So I said, totally understand it. I wish there was something I could have done up front, and it's my fault I didn't catch this in the beginning. What I want us to do now is everything we can do to rectify it, because this could have, like, if, for example, you guys don't sell it. They said, you just want a commission. You just want us to sell it. I said, look, sell it or don't sell it. I've been here to help you. But if you don't sell it, I'm not an attorney and I can't give you this legal advice. But in my opinion, the other sons would have the ability to come ask for back pay on this deal. But if we sell it and we go through the course of this and we track them down, and we come to them saying, hey, here's a bag of money, they're probably not likely to do that.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. I'm like, yeah. And
All right.
so then I helped them find it, find them. I helped I went to the house of the people to get it signed and do the thing. And ultimately, yeah, it ends up closing, and she gets less money than she thought she would get and whatever. But it's because the title was never handled properly and he didn't really own it the whole time and everything else. But that's after being told that it's my fault, after being yelled at multiple times, after going to deal with mental facilities, after dealing with the death of the client, after walking her through with attorneys and attorneys to set up power of attorneys and all the different things. That's the level of service that agents need to be able to give their clients, even at $220,000 price points, to allow yourself to come to new clients with conviction and say, I will do the best possible job for you.
I'll do
I'll
everything.
tell you one that I'll leave it at this. The most powerful thing that I'm able to tell people now, and it was funny in the moment, but now it's not funny because I get to use it. When I got shot and I'm in an ambulance, 7 minutes later, I still don't know if I'm dying or not yet. I got the word that we closed on a property, and I was back and forth texting a client, letting her know that we had finished, that it had been ratified, and the funds would be sent over and everything else. Literally time-stamped. I have evidence.
I've seen the screenshot.
When a client comes to you and says, how do I know you have my back? You need to be able to come to them with receipts and show them the way that you will go to bat for them.
Right.
And that's what can win transactions.
Right. And and lifelong fans, right? And people that are going to refer you and people that are going to do all the things. So absolutely incredible, Garth. Obviously, you know, looking through co-sponsorship and all those things, I'm so excited to pour into some of these agents with you as a partner. Where's a good place for people to follow you? I know you're getting the YouTube channel going. I know you're doing stuff on Instagram. So where are those spots? We'll also tag them below, but Sam.
Yeah, you can look me up. Just type in Garth Ward on YouTube, or the Garth Ward is the user. And same thing on Instagram, the Garth Ward on Instagram. It's a good place to find me. If you guys happen to stumble across that channel and book a call with me and you found me here, make sure to mention in the comments that you found me through Jeremy's video here. That way I understand how you even found me. Yeah, we'll see you over there. I do a lot of trainings. I do a lot of just fun, entertaining videos. I do things where I'm mentioning how to stay more accountable with yourself, and some casual life commentary as well. And just kind of behind the scenes on the Instagram side of things.
Absolutely crushing it too. So great chatting with you, Garth. We'll catch you next time on the Wolfpack Way. Like, comment, subscribe, comment co-sponsorship if you want us to collaborate together to bring some success to your business with your input, of course. We'll talk to you soon.